Today we are here with Dr. Alex Barnacle, consultant pediatric interventional radiology from the UK. She has been very active in scientific work, as well as in spreading the word about IR at various medical and scientific congresses. We will for sure learn a lot about her career path, and will be really interesting for all female interventional radiologists who decided to start a career in this field. So first of all, thank you very much to be here. It's a pleasure and an honor for me to interview you today. And let's start with our short interview.
Sure, thanks, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. Really nice.
So where and when did you first hear about interventional radiology, and what made you curious to learn more about this field?
I suppose it just came up as part of my normal radiology training, so I had never pictured that I would be an interventional radiologist. I was a pediatrician before I did radiology, and during my pediatric years as a doctor, I met an amazing pediatric radiologist who inspired me and was a real mentor to me, and I thought that she made radiology look really interesting. And during the training we had to do some interventional radiology, and I thought I wouldn't enjoy it, but I would do it. I had to do it, and then I loved it. But the problem for me was that I wanted to do pediatric radiology, and I didn't think that really pediatric IR was even possible. And so I had quite a conflict for a while, thinking I had to choose between the two. And then in my final part of my training, I met somebody who was a pediatric IR and realized that it was possible to combine the two. And there were some jobs and some training out there for us. So yeah, I came an unexpected way round to it. Yeah.
That's great. And that's great for us to have you as a pediatric interventional radiologist. So you were born and raised in Africa and have been traveling to different countries to complete your medical training and give workshops. So what do you think has been the best experience for you so far when learning about IR practice in different countries?
Yeah, it has been really interesting, actually. I did a fellowship in Melbourne in Australia in pediatric radiology and saw some of the IR there at the time. And then since I've qualified, I've been lucky enough to do some traveling workshops, most amazingly to Sri Lanka twice, and hopefully again in the future, helping them to set up a pediatric IR service there. And I think what I've learned particularly from them and from colleagues who've traveled elsewhere to do some IR in other countries is just, for me, the best thing about IR is the innovation and trying out new things that other teams don't have the skill or the facilities or the kit to know how to do. And I think IRs always find a way somehow to do things and can pull enough kit together to do something new and innovative. And I was just amazed in countries like Sri Lanka what they managed to do without all of the equipment that we have available, but with incredible skill. I think if you're a radiologist, you can already, particularly in pediatrics, you're using your hands a lot. You're scanning a lot of children yourself. You're doing a lot of hands-on stuff with fluoroscopy. And it's easier maybe to convert that to IR. But yeah, so innovative, so clever. It's amazing.
Then can you tell us more about your IR training and the challenges you faced while undergoing it?
Sure. I think I was lucky, actually, that my training was straightforward. As I say, I did my normal block of IR training, doing adult IR as part of my general radiology training. And yeah, I loved doing that. I thought that was fascinating. And then for my pediatric IR training, I did an informal fellowship really at Great Ormond Street Hospital in London, because there wasn't a formal training scheme at that point in the UK. And then I did some pediatric IR when I went to Australia as well. I haven't got children and I haven't had to take time off work, and I haven't chosen to work part-time. So really it's been straightforward. I know there are a lot of other women out there who have had a more tricky time, and I know particularly in Europe, you can end up with gaps in your training if you decide to have a family around the time that you're training, and that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us more about pediatric IR. What do you like the most about your job as a pediatric IR, and what are some of the challenges?
So, well, it's the best job in the world. But I really enjoy working with the patients and the families. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that family contact, and also getting to know, with some types of cases, you get to know a family for many, many years, and you see a child all the way through from when they're born to I've now been doing this job long enough, sadly, to know that I've seen them all the time from being born to being too old to come to our pediatric hospital now, which is incredible. I really enjoy that. A large part of my practice is vascular malformations, so that gives you that long-term perspective to their care, whereas if you were doing other aspects of IR, there may be less of that. I know some people would say that dealing with the families is the thing that puts them off pediatric IR. So, but I think it's easy to learn those skills just to gain the trust of a family and a child, and after that, it's one of the big rewards. One of the struggles is the lack of equipment that's available from industry for what we're trying to do. So a lot of devices come on very large delivery systems, either very long delivery systems like the tracheal stents that we use, or else intravascular devices that have to go through really large sheaths that you wouldn't want to use in a baby. So again, I think that's interesting. It makes us more innovative, but it is a challenge. And I think the third thing is that not many organizations still understand how important pediatric IR is. I think we're 20 years behind where adult IR is, and 20 years ago we were fighting to be accepted as a key player in any hospital's organization and healthcare delivery, whereas now most centers would agree that IR is key to all of that. But the pediatric hospitals, I think, still need some help in realizing the role that we can play.
Yeah, for sure. It is difficult to balance a career in IR with personal or family commitments, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it is, but I think, and as I said, I don't have children, and I think that's true for everybody, whether you have a family or not. And gosh, we've all realized that more, haven't we, with the COVID pandemic, the stresses that can come with your job, and the importance of taking time out and self-care, and the importance of a bit of perspective. And I think that's no bad thing, that we have all had to take time to realize that and think about it. It is difficult, but I think if you have a really rewarding career like IR, you make it work. And all of the people who are real role models to me have shown that it's completely possible. But yeah, you need to work at it for sure.
And what was your first experience with CIRSE? And how was your collaboration with CIRSE evolved since then? And what would you recommend to young female IRs in order to get the chance to be involved with CIRSE?
I was lucky enough to join CIRSE through our British IR Society. The CIRSE membership comes along with that membership, and quite early on I was encouraged to, I was asked to speak at CIRSE because of my background with vascular malformations. But yes, I remember my first few meetings, and can be quite intimidating, can't it? It's such a massive organization, but it's so organized, and I think has become more so in the last few years with the app and the technology. It's easier to know which talks you want to go to, which ones you can catch up with afterwards. There's no excuse not to get a huge amount of learning from all that content in the 5 days. And I would really encourage people to be involved. The The European Trainee Forum is an extraordinary initiative. My goodness, if that had been available when I was training, it would have been incredible. And I think that has changed the face of IR for young people throughout Europe. It's fantastic. I'd also say that it's a well-known fact that women say yes less often than men when they're asked either to be on committees or to speak. And I would really encourage women, never say no, always say yes, and then think afterwards about how you could do it, or ask a friend, get some advice. But I think men say yes and then think about it afterwards, and possibly with women it's the other way around. So we should be more positive about our abilities, I think.
That was a good tip for us. And then for this year's CIRSE, you were appointed as a scientific program committee member. And can you tell us more about your role and the session Women in ER, which is planned for CIRSE 2020 Summit?
Sure. It's been fantastic being on the committee. It's such an eye-opener to see a little bit about what happens in the background and how much work goes into putting a CIRSE meeting together. And I guess my role on the committee is twofold. One is just to help to ensure that there is more female representation on the committee, and I know on the program rather. And I think the committee have been fantastic at ensuring equality there, and that's definitely something that's getting better, not just on the CIRSE program, but across the world. But there is still some more work to be done on that. And then my second role obviously is to promote more paediatric IR within the Congress, and that's growing too. The session this year on Women IR is going to be a great session. Of course, we're all disappointed we can't meet in person, but it's great that the session's still going ahead. I wanted to focus on people who I think are complete role models for me. So not to have people speak just because they're a woman, but to have them speak because they're a role model and a leader who may happen to be a woman. And so we've got one of my fantastic colleagues from Bournemouth in the UK talking about why she chose IR. So she's a real up and coming figure in vascular and non-vascular IR, Claire Bent. Then we're honoured to have Afshan Ganji as the president of CIRSE speaking about why he thinks it's so important to have women in his department, and that a department without women is not as good. So I can't wait to hear his talk. And then we've got Maureen Coe from San Francisco and Marie-France Giraud from Montreal talking about their roles as leaders and what women can bring to that role, but just in general what the challenges are of leading a radiology department or organization and inspiring the next generation. So I think we'll have a good mix of subjects.
We are all waiting to see it, for sure. And now, can you share with us what you consider the highest achievement in your career, and tell us about any future goals you may have related to your career in ER and also scientific work?
Sure. I think there are lots of things that I'm proud of in what me or my team have done so far. On an IR basis, I have developed the orbital sclerotherapy service in my hospital, which is the main service in the UK for children who have orbital vascular malformations. And that really in the last 15 years has grown out of nothing to being a department that might see 5 children now every week with these conditions, and has completely changed how this condition is treated throughout the UK. So it's been incredible to learn how to do it and then to see the outcomes over the years. I know that we have changed an entire pathway for patients with this disease. It's incredible. And then on a more personal level, I'm really proud of being around to support the promotion of paediatric IR in the UK. I think we've had to be really innovative in how to do that, but we have made massive strides forward. And within the British IR Society, paediatric IR now is very mainstream, and it's becoming more mainstream within CIRSE too. And for the future, well, this year I'm the president of our International Pediatric IR Society, SPIR, SPIR. So it's been a funny year to be president with everything that's gone on this year, and a bit of a a difficult start for us, but I'll be president for 2 years, and I'm really excited to see how we can grow pediatric IR across the world. There are so many countries that families still don't have access to it at all. Our Congress in October is going to be online and is free for everybody to sign up for. And that's a unique opportunity we wouldn't have predicted, but will allow us, I think, to bring more people to be interested, at least to find out a bit more about pediatric IR.
Great, thank you. And then still one question. The CIRSE European Trainee Forum subcommittee strives to get more women on board and help increase participation of women in IR. Why do you think it's important to have more women represented in the field of IR?
I think it's important to have equity anyway, but I think there's that saying, you have to see it to be it, and it's well known that there are many departments that may have only male IRs, and there are quite a few departments now that have several female IRs, but it's very rare to have a department just with one. And what I mean by that is, I think if trainees come through and see women practicing as IRs, then they'll think that's normal. And that's all we need, is just to prove that it's normal. It's not weird or unusual or brave or courageous, it's just normal. And so the more women we have, the more obvious that will be. But without role models out there, without people involved in all the different aspects of IR, whether it's clinical delivery or on committees or on the lecture circuit, it's going to be much harder to grow it. So yeah, we need to band together, and we need to get to know each other more too. I think within the CIRSE organization, it would be good to get to know our female colleagues around the world and learn from each other's experiences too. That's something I'd like to bring to the organization in the next few years.
For sure. So this was the last question. I thank you so much for this really interesting interview. And as I said before, for sure, this will inspire many medical students and many young IR who want to start in this field. Thank you again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and well done on this initiative and everything that your group are doing. It's fantastic, really good.
Thank you very much. That's so important for us as well. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.